So here we are in front of the European Parliament instead of inside. I'm very sorry, Aude. The plan was originally that you would make a statement to conclude our conference on the need for public research policy that would actually serve society's needs and not only big business interests. We had, of course, big expectations for this debate. Unfortunately, this is not going to happen. Nevertheless, the statement that you were going to make, I think, is very important and worth recording. Therefore, we are recording this statement in front of the European Parliament. Aude, the floor is yours.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for having invited me in spite of the disturbance in order to represent the Citizen Science NGO, Fondation Science Citoyenne, that is a French activist think tank critically analyzing the relationship between science and democracy. During those 2 days, regulatory bodies have been widely questioned. But how does it come that the relationship between science producer and European citizens that are reduced to their consumer dimension seems to be managed mainly from a regulatory point of view? Are those bodies qualified to make balanced decisions between economic, social and ecological needs? And why isn't this balance discussed upstream? We could imagine debates taking place when the research funds are allocated or during the engineer process, where the social utility and the possible alternatives of an innovation could be questioned. But nowadays, innovation is not widely questioned. In 2012, the amount of R&D expenses by China, the US, Japan and Europe exceeded $1,000 billion, an amount that is justified by the race for progress. Meanwhile, the impact of our modern life spirals out of control with regards to its effects on global warming, biodiversity, environmental disease, social injustice, and increasingly conflicts for natural resources. It seems that we are adorning Dr. Jekyll without no consideration for Mr. Hyde. During those few minutes, I would like to ask what could be done to reduce this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde's paradox and not let it to the public health expert at the end of the research process. My speech was supposed to focus on two aspects. I would first critically discuss the research agendas of our societies, which seems to me to be more similar to a rush towards wars than accountable political strategies able to address current challenges. In the second part, I will take the liberty to step aside and to propose a more ambitious policy than the mere adoration of God innovation to which the current policy can be compared. So all along the 19th and the 20th century, amazing progress in human knowledge and technology development have occurred. It gave way to today's modern comfort life and built faith into science in the major part of developed countries. Comforted by the Ford Compromise, confident of public and private decisions' accuracy, and blinded by the face of in progress, our societies have limited their efforts towards risk management. Even so, alerted by the likes of Rachel Carson or Ulrich Beck and many other sanitary crises and resistances, we can wonder whether now all those previous technology have been mastered, ensuring a good control over risk. Regulation are set up, for example, rich legislation, as unsatisfactory as it could be, arising in order to organize an anarchic spread of chemical substances. However, public regulations remains much too weak compared to the potential damages. Previous technological choices, and not to mention the new technological possibilities such as geoengineering or genetic modification, nor even the previous technological choices can leave us helpless in front of highly complex issues such as chemical cocktail effects or nuclear death and among others. A better focus for public interest could have been to dedicate a bigger share of the total research effort in public protection and anticipating hazards. However, during the last decade, 2% of European public research effort towards nanotechnology was aimed at protection, when 98% was dedicated to the product developments. It's just one example to illustrate that the chosen direction is an acceleration of new techno-scientific developments with the same low interest for the side effects. In our post-Fordist societies, where product differentiation is the economic driving force, the need for novelties become addictive. With 80 billion euro invested over 7 years, the European Research and Innovation Programme, Horizon 2020, is reduced to, I quote, a means to drive economic growth and create jobs, end of the quote. A possible translation of this quote could have been a means to finance private profits with public money. With the Lisbon strategy, Europe has chosen to participate in the general competitiveness race driven by the market of knowledge, no matter the consequences could be. Among this, no one seems to be really accountable. Neither the research policymakers, nor the research workers, nor the industrial developers. Who remains in charge then? Who can or should be held accountable for the path taken by the investment in research and innovation? Those European investments, if their main objective is to drive economic growth, are also supposed to bring knowledge to 7 societal challenges, and also for a very small part of the funding to build cooperation between science and society. For that purpose, Europe is willing to push responsible research and innovation, RRI. Should we understand that current research is not responsible at all? Beside this question, we can still welcome the small steps of Europe towards political voluntarism and resistance to the idea that science invisible end as a natural trend towards public good. However, semantic analysis of the Horizon 2020 text clearly indicates that the terms of competitiveness, industry, market, economy are completely predominant and appear much more often than terms such as civil society, citizens' interest, or people well-being. In fact, public and private research have become so naturally intertwined since the 80s that it seems worthless to doubt it. Nevertheless, the close relationship between public investment and business significantly erodes the traditional key academic principles and partly destroy research requirement and quality. It also reinforces business-driven projects at the expense of environmental and social-driven projects. Horizon 2020 carries on with the same focus towards nuclear energy, agricultural genetic engineering, highly complex and cost-intensive technologies. Investment in solutions for a better tomorrow are still expected. We cannot rely on technologies, including those who contributed to the problems. Finally, how many years will be necessary for a better cooperation between science and society when less than 1% of Horizon 2020 is dedicated to this topic? Time is running out, and the immense ecological, social, and economic challenges faced by our human societies need disruptive innovations now. As already claimed in an open letter written in 2011, Fondation Sans Citoyen and many other European organizations called on the European institutions to take steps to untangle public research and private interests and recognize public research as a tool to increase knowledge and build a more just society. It is not primarily about economical growth. We should overcome the old myth that only highly complex, cost-intensive, business-driven technologies can create sustainability, well-being, and resolve the current environmental crisis. We should establish a democratic, participatory, and accountable decision-making process for research funding allocation, free from conflicts of interest and industry dominance. What is the democratic legitimacy of a scientific advice system? We should promote citizen participation into controversial decisions thanks to democratic tools that already exist, such as citizen conventions. We should encourage community-based research or participatory research, which will include researchers and civil society partners to deal with highly complex issues and find new paths. We should develop the autonomy of thought and critical reflexivity of the researcher, the ability to communicate with society, to assume the complexity of the ecological transition, and to understand the political consequences of our innovation and the dominant mechanisms. Finally, we should protect and favor scientific whistleblowers who choose loyalty to society when needed. Research agendas that prioritize profit and market share are incapable of meeting the social and environmental challenges Europe is facing, precisely because these challenges require alternatives to the high-growth, high-profit models of economic development that have been pursued to such devastating excess. There is an urgent need for a breakdown that will require a new science-society contract, highly ambitious in terms of democratic and transparent choices, together with genuine coupling of knowledge. Thank you.
Let the debate start.